there's been so much that has happened in the past, like 2-3 weeks. I think the last time we spoke was literally the Switch 2 had just come out.
Yeah.
I don't even think you'd had yours by that time. I think only
No,
I'd had mine.
I had mine, but I'd like literally held it and powered it on. I didn't play the thing.
Right. You hadn't
Yeah.
actually played anything. So I want to hear now that it's been like 2-3 weeks. You've got intimate with your Switch 2, much to the dismay of your wife.
Oh my god! I
you've
mean,
now you've played a lot of the Mario Kart. What's your impressions of
the Switch.
the new Nintendo console?
So the new Switch is nice. Don't get me wrong. I really do like it. It's just it's a normal thing for a new console. I feel like there's just a lack of software because I've played Mario Kart and I've enjoyed Mario Kart, but now I'm like, I want something else to play. I need like another thing to play. And we'll talk about Mario Kart in a second, but Mario Kart's not like, it's not a Breath of the Wild. It's not a Mario Odyssey. It's like, it's a fun game to hop into, but there's no sort of beginning and end. There's no, I don't want to say like incentive for me to play because that doesn't make sense. But you know what I mean? It's Mario Kart is just Mario Kart. It's a racing game.
It's not a story game. It's not a big adventure.
There's cups and whatever, and it's like, that's cool. And I think it's a great game. It works on the Switch. I mean, the Switch itself, I think it runs really well, but I'd expect that given that it's 8 years newer than the old Switch. So I appreciate the under the hood upgrades, and even just the unit itself, while it's big, I find it very comfortable to hold. I've used it in, like, I predominantly use my Switch in bed, not docked. You know, it's a sort of thing I'll climb to bed, play a couple hours, and while it's a little bit heavier, I haven't really struggled with it. It's very weird having such a big unit and thinking like, oh my god, this could kill me if I dropped it on my face. But holding it's fine. It's heavy, but it's not, you know, I'm not like getting wrist pain, for lack of a better description, you know.
I do think its ergonomics are still not fantastic. And I think that's just because it's thin.
Yeah, you've always said the Steam Deck probably has like the best ergonomics. Like, it's just, even though it's a big unit, it's comfortable to hold. And I think
it's the thing. It's like you've got the new Asus Xbox One coming out, and like the grips on that thing are more like controller like, and I think it's literally just that. It's not the fact that it's bulkier. It's just there's space for you to curl your hands around. Whereas the Switch is more of a vice grip.
I think they have just gone for like portability here because it's a big unit, but I mean, it's thin. You could like slide it into
thin,
you know, if you're traveling, you've got a laptop bag, it's very easy to just pop in your laptop bag.
Which is impressive, like you said, given the upgrade in terms of like processing power, that they kept it that thin. It is cool. I just think I'm going to immediately buy like a case or cover that has something a bit more ergonomic to grab onto. Which is fine. Which is also fine.
I think I was going to say, I completely lost my train of thought. We were talking about how thin it is. It's great. But in terms of I know there's this discourse around the screen, and I know you're affected by what is like blur.
It's just the response time. It makes everything look a bit blurry. Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe it needs to be pointed out to me for me to see it. But at this stage, I'm like, I don't see it, and that's better that way, I guess. That I don't see
it. Is. Do not go looking for it, because I think once you see it, it's very difficult to like. So let me explain that it's not necessarily, not all games. I find it happening in all games. I think if you really want to go hunting for it, just go onto the consoles like home screen, you know, where you have the tiles for your different games, and just like scroll all the way to the right and scroll all the way to the left. Just like watch that motion, and you will definitely see like pretty significant blur as it's like switching between each of the tiles.
Okay.
When I play Mario Kart, I don't really see it. I think there's so much color and so much happening on the screen at any given time that I don't notice it, you know. But there are games where I have noticed it to the point where it's like made me a bit sick. So I don't know if I mentioned on the last episode,
you might have just touched it.
Yeah, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, like that motion made me like pretty hectically motion sick. And I think it is that blur that's like, it's not, my eyes aren't happy with how it looks, which is bizarre because the games that actually you see this happening most on are 2D games because there is just that motion in one plane. So like games like Celeste look a bit strange, I find. Yeah, like do a little dash with Celeste and you'll see the blur like immediately. Okay. Because that trail is already blurred and now it's staying there for too long. It's like it looks
they upped the blur
weird.
effect in this game.
But again, like a Celeste, I think I can like deal with it because it's not a motion sickness thing. It's just it was weird with Breath of the Wild. I think it's just the combination of that art style, which is already just by virtue a bit hazy.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was just rotating my camera and I was like, no, can't play this.
Weird,
which is really fucking annoying. And like, there's been lots of tests by hardware people since then, because I honestly genuinely thought I had a broken unit. I thought something's wrong with the screen. Something's not right. Like it's the LCD's balked or something. But turns out that it's just a really, really slow LCD, which is super strange because Nintendo would have almost had to go out of their way to find one that's so slow. But it could be something that is fixed with firmware in the future. But yeah, I mean, if you want to put it into raw numbers, the Switch 2's display is slower than the Switch 1's in terms of response times. It is so slow. A normal gaming monitor is like, 5 or 6 millisecond response time. The Switch is like 30 something.
That's wild.
Which, I mean, this is going to get really in the weeds. And again, if you don't see this doesn't really matter. But the Switch's one is like 32 or 33 milliseconds, which is around the same time that a single frame takes to render when running a game at 30 FPS. So that means by the time the console's rendered a new frame, the screen itself hasn't actually let go of the previous frame yet. And that's why you get blur.
What's the blur.
And then when you're playing a game at 60 frames per second, that is exacerbated, to another degree, because now the console's produced 2 frames before the console's let go of 1 frame. And so you have this like really staggered effect. And then, hell, you go up to 120 frames per second, you've got 4 frames in a buffer before. It's bad. It's really, really
explain
bad.
To me, how could they fix that with firmware? Because in my head, it's just straight up hardware. How do you patch that?
So the reason why gaming monitors get around this is there's settings on LCDs called like overdrive. I mean, every company calls them something different, but essentially what it does is you're driving more voltage through the LCD, because LCDs are just like crystals. They're like liquid crystals within a display which move according to the voltage applied to them. Yeah. And by moving, they refract light differently, and that's how you get like. There's a very basic explanation of LCDs, but if you drive more voltage through them, you can get that movement to happen a lot faster.
Okay.
And so the sort of conclusion that places like Digital Foundry and Hardware and Box came to was that Nintendo has prioritized battery life more than anything else. And so they are driving very little voltage through the display. And that is exacerbating this kind of like slow response time because it's kind of just working at its default.
Yeah.
So the idea is that there could be firmware in the future where they tweak that balance a bit more. I'm not convinced they're going to do that because already the Switch 2 battery life is not like exceptional.
No.
It's like fine. And so if they give more voltage to the screen, which is already very bright and a lot bigger and running at a higher resolution, like, you've only got a limited power budget that you can work with before you start compromising how much battery life the thing has. So, I think they probably just prioritized a bright screen and a lot more processing power for the games, which is, maybe good. But it comes at the expense of the display, which is a real bummer. This will invariably be fixed with an OLED because OLEDs just by nature have an incredibly low response time.
They should have just launched with an OLED. Like, I don't know why they never did. I mean, I know it's obviously a cost thing. Well, I imagine it's a cost thing, but if the Switch cost $50 more, like, I don't know what the price difference is between OLED and LCD. I have to believe that people would have been okay, maybe. I mean, let's be honest, the Switch 2 has sold out in many. There's been like stock issues in many places, so there's a hunger for it, even at the higher price points. I don't know. It's also a weird thing because on the battery life, like I said, I've played Mario Kart. I haven't really had another big game to dig into like with hours and hours. But even playing Mario Kart, if I do a Grand Prix, so I'll take my Switch off the dock and it sits at like 87% because there's a new setting where it charges up to like around 90%.
They're like battery health.
Yeah,
which
is cool.
Which is good.
Yeah, like that's cool. But then like it's on 87%. I'll do a Grand Prix, which how long is a Grand Prix? Like 4 races.
Yeah, I would say like half an hour in total.
Not even half an hour. I mean, they're pretty short, like a couple laps, 3-4 minutes. Let's call it like 15 minutes, maybe 20 at a push. Okay. That battery's already gone down like 10-15%. I'm like, that seems like it's draining way too quickly. To me, I don't know. Like, I suppose
you should do that battery thing. I don't know if like we spoke about it, but there was that bug. At launch with the battery indicator.
I did do that where you hold.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah, where you like, I know it's something you like hold the volume buttons and then the power button and you do like I don't know. There's like a whole workaround, whatever.
It's to like reset the sync between the battery indicator and the battery itself.
Yeah. So, but again, like 2 hours battery life is actually fine. Like I'm of the opinion. I don't really play my Switch for longer than 2 hours at a time. Honestly, even on my OG Switch, I'll play for like an hour, maybe 2, and then like I'll take a break or whatever, go to bed. So I'm like, that's fine. But it just feels like it's draining way faster than I expect to. So I don't know. When you say like, to fix the screen, it's a firmware update that demands more power. I'm like, where is that going to come from?
That's the thing. Yeah. That's why I think it's possible, but I don't foresee them doing it because I think it already compromises their battery life, which is not. I mean, there needs to be context with the battery as well. Like I get what you're saying, and I get that people are disappointed because they're like, oh, this thing lasts 2 to 3 hours when playing a big game. It's just like the original Switch. It's like sure. But this thing is significantly more powerful. The screen is way, way brighter, running at higher frame rates. And you're running at 1080p versus 720p. That already just takes... So you're getting a lot more for that power and you're getting around the same battery life. So there is an improvement there. But something has to give eventually.
No, for sure. No, and to be clear, it's more thing of... I don't mind, or like I said, 2 hours for me is perfect, actually. It's just... I'm a bit surprised, I guess, that it just feels like it's draining super quickly. But like I get it,
it's also just a small battery given how thin they want the device to be. Like you look at your Asus ROG Allies and your Steam Decks, they have bigger batteries just by virtue of being bigger machines. So yeah, I mean, it's the one thing that hasn't progressed in step with all these advancements in processors is battery tech. Like you still need big batteries for capacity. Lithium ion tech hasn't really progressed far enough where you can get a lot out of a very thin battery. And that honestly, like if you speak to a lot of people within that space, that's the biggest barrier, limitation. Yeah, that as soon as that is overcome, you're going to see like revolutionary steps forward in terms of what can be done on handhelds because that is what's holding things back. There's only so much you can... I mean, you can take these like chips and dial them up to like 11 if you have more power to give them. Yeah. And
I think you could get like desktop powered phones.
Oh yeah.
You know, if you had bigger batteries.
You just have to look at Apple's like silicon, like their M chips that they put in both a MacBook Pro and an iPad. The thing is, on the iPad, it's dialed all the way down because it needs to, for heat and for battery purposes. But you give that thing a battery on par with a laptop, and suddenly you've got something in a much smaller form factor that can perform just like a MacBook.
Yeah.
Put that into a gaming device, or apply those same principles, and you've got probably console level quality on a handheld. Just the problem is, you put that with a battery now, and it will last like 10 minutes. So, yeah. It's all that balance, and I think that's when Nintendo's just like decided this is what's important, this is not important. And like you said, you don't see the issue with the display. I do. How many people are going to be okay with that display? Probably the majority. So their decision is probably sound. It just irritates me.
No, for sure.
And a small subset of other people.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Look, I know I've come down hard. I mean, those are just the things that have stood out to me. But the actual experience of playing a Switch 2 is great. Like, I've enjoyed my time with Mario Kart, and that's to me like a good indication of cool. Nintendo and all these other publishers have a lot more power at their disposal. Because with my Switch 1, I was feeling the age, particularly in the last 2-3 years, where maybe not so much I'll say that Nintendo games, even a couple of them, Tears of the Kingdom aside, you could feel with like, what is this older one? Echoes of Wisdom. That, like, when that's chugging along, it's like, okay, the Switch needs
it was bad.
Needs an
Switch,
upgrade, yeah. And then even some indie games, I'm like, oh my god, this takes so long to load, or I can feel like the Switch just needs just more power. So I'm very excited to use it, but I want stuff to play on it. I mean, I've got even going back into the backlog, like a lot of indie games don't have any support for the Switch 2 yet. Like,
yeah, it's true. It's true.
It's not
a lot of them just run better though if they have unlocked frame rates.
Yeah, if there's no like frame cap, that's cool because the games are compatible. So that's, let me be clear, great, very happy with that. But I'd like to see now support for some of the indie devs upgrading or removing that frame cap, whatever. So as a good example, I've been looking for a thing to play on my Switch 2 now. And Dredge is on sale. I'm like, that's cool. I've seen so many people rave about this game. Let me play it. And then I looked it up, and then people are like, no, it's the Switch 1 version. It's capped at 30 FPS, which is fine. Like, I'm sure it runs perfectly fine. But I know my Switch 2 could run it at 60 FPS or something better.
100%, yeah.
So I'm like, I just want that barrier removed. And I think in reading up on it, I think Nintendo sent out indie dev stuff. They sent dev units to
dev kits.
I think they send them to indies like much later because they're worried about leaks and whatever, like understandably. So I'm waiting for that knock-on effect now where you are going to have all these older games where people are going like, oh, we've updated it. Now we've got this new Switch 2 patch, whatever. It'll be either a paid thing or free updates, whatever, but we've done it. And that's cool. I'm waiting for that. There's going to be like a period in the next 3 to 12 months, whatever it is, where I think there'll be a lot of these old games I've missed that I can now play on my Switch 2. Even games that I wanted to play on my Switch 1, I was like, no, I just won't because I'm feeling the age now. I'll play it on a handheld either one day when I got a Steam Deck, which didn't happen, or when there's a Switch 2. So there we are. We'll see.
I hope that does happen. I hope there's a bit more drive to do that as opposed to, there's a lot of indie games especially, or just games in general that never got updates for like Xbox Series X or PS5 in that regard. Like, you don't even have to be an indie. You look at like Rockstar with Red Dead Redemption 2, that thing still runs at the same resolution and same frame rate as it did on Xbox One and PS4 on the newer consoles. But I think if you start seeing lots of big Switch sales, then it's a very easy way for a developer to be like, hey, we've put out this patch
100%,
and that will drive more sales on the platform. Like No Man's Sky did that with the Switch 2 coming out. So
I
do hope that's a thing.
So my if you want to summarize my feelings on it, that I do like the Switch 2, but it's early days. I think it's going to be better in the next few months. Like the new Donkey Kong game is out in like a week or two.
That looks great. I'm quite excited for that. Yeah,
I think it's made by the Odyssey team. I'm like, oof.
Apparently, yeah.
Sorry, allegedly, we don't actually know.
There's a lot of weird, like, crosstalk around that. It's like, yes, it's the Mario Odyssey team, but also it's like not the entire team or some stuff. I don't know. It's a very confusing. I don't know why Nintendo's super weird about that, but
I don't know.
Yeah.
But when
there has to be a direct soonish.
Yeah.
Because like beyond Donkey Kong, there's like nothing.
Yeah.
Really.
So when that's out and there are more things to play, I'm like, yes, because I love my OG Switch. There's a reason I bought a Switch 2 on launch because I'm like, yes, I want that, but I want the same experience just with more power. And that's
have you picked up your old Switch since getting the new one? Just like out of curiosity.
Yeah, it just feels a lot smaller now.
How much more like toy-like and old does it
I
feel
know,
as well? Like the Switch 2 feels so much more refined in terms of like hardware. I
It
find in
does.
the OG Switch.
But
Yeah.
it's funny how that happens with just hardware in general. I mean, have you ever held the OG PS3 controller before it had DualShock? That feels like
it
a
felt
toy.
like air.
Yeah, I was like, this was the norm. Like, this is weird. And it often happens. You'll look back at older technology and be like, no, not in a bad way, but you're like, damn, like that's a product of its
It just
time,
doesn't
you know?
feel as refined. And I think like the OG Switch, it was something that wasn't cobbled together. That's a very bad way to look at it. But like, it was we are retrofitting some of these things to work as this like device, as this like new idea hybrid, and they've just had 8 years to think about how this thing actually should come together. And I think the Switch 2, from a hardware perspective, it feels way more premium. It clicks together way better. It just feels very put up compared to the OG Switch. I had no issues with my OLED, but as soon as I picked it up after having the Switch 2, I was like, oh god, there's a gulf of quality between these two.
Even like you said, they've had 8 years to figure things out. The fact that the Joy-Cons now come out to the side, yes, what a game changer. I mean,
those Joy-Cons are great. They really are good.
It's such a simple, small thing, because like even with the original Switch, just if it's docked and you want to take your Joy-Cons out to sit and play, it's like, oh, but like I lift the Switch, I've got to like hold it down, and then you don't have to do that now. You just like to the side. It just works.
Yeah. And it is as seamless as it seems in the videos. It's not like clunky or...
And then clicking them back in, you thought that little Switch couldn't get any more satisfying. You haven't lived till the Switch 2 Joy-Con like magnetically snaps into place.
And I think there was so much fear at launch about the tabs that stick out of the Switch for, you know, when the Joy-Cons go in. People are like, oh, these things are going to snap immediately. I think they've done a really good job of like aligning those magnets and putting enough in that when you want to connect your Joy-Con again, it just works. It just like goes, and there's no like worry about it misaligning and snapping something or it's really, really cool. I do think you can potentially run into these issues. I know Dbrand, the peripheral or the case maker, they ran into this. The drama was mainly because of their response to this, but essentially they made a case for the Switch 2. They've made cases for the Steam Deck and whatever, and they're all very good. They're premium, they're very nice. But this one, there was too much of a gap between the covers for the Joy-Con and the actual console. So it could actually interfere with the strength of the magnetic clasp between the two. So some people were finding if they picked up their Switch with just, only holding one Joy-Con, the weight would actually detach the magnet and it would fall out. And the uproar was because of their response. Their response to that was basically like, people are intentionally making this look worse than it is. No one actually uses their Switch like that, where they should have just been like, this is a design flaw, we need to fix this, which they've eventually got around to. That's essentially what they're doing now. But I guess you just have to be a bit more aware when you are buying peripherals for the Switch that there isn't this potential for interference with its like base design. Whereas I think with the OG Switch, because it was a rail, it either like fed into that rail or didn't. There was no like ambiguity between the two. But I think that's a peripheral maker's problem and not necessarily Nintendo's problem. I think the Switch as it is works incredibly well. I agree with you. I think there need to be more games. I think Mario Kart's a cool launch game. I think the open world stuff has been a complete letdown for me. I was quite excited for that. Mario Kart's an $80 game. Yeah. And for it to not launch with like a campaign mode, I think is borderline unacceptable in today's day and age.
100%. It's baffling to me because, I mean, I played Mario Kart 8. I did play Mario Kart 8 a fair bit on the Switch. And even then, it was the same thing, right? It's just Grand Prix. Just straight up, there's like championships and there's time trials. And I mean, I get it. It's Mario Kart. But you have to think that they've got enough stuff to build out like a really cool campaign or something, like a story mode or whatever. I don't need this grand sweeping narrative. I mean, every good Mario game is Mario going, oh no, Bowser took Peach. Like that's the extent
Yeah.
of the narrative, and it's just stitched together by cool mechanics and gameplay things, you know. Mario Karts, they've added some cool flair to, like the fact that you can jump and wall ride and rail grind. There's a lot of cool little nuances and depth there. But it just feels weird that they could have done a campaign mode, and they could have done a thing where it is, you know, you're a rookie, you've just got this kart. I mean, karting lends itself so well to this sort of like RPG thing of you got to do some races, get some currency, then you can buy a new kart and some upgrades, and there's new weapons, whatever. It feels like, and it's such a weird thing because it's a good Mario Kart game. Don't get me wrong. I think they've refined a lot of things. The tracks are great. I don't know if you've unlocked all the tracks. Have you done like all the championships?
Rainbow Road is so good.
It's that last track
so
is like
good.
Chef's Kiss is really good, but it just feels like I've done the races, and like unless I'm playing with friends, like I don't really feel motivated to go just keep playing the same tracks, you know. I'm not the gamer who wants to min-max my times around the track. Sorry, that's just not me. If there was a story mode or something though, where there was like incentive to like play through a campaign, I would have loved that. Should they have done that?
I fully agree.
They don't owe it to us, no, but come on, it would have been really.
No, and you know, I feel like Nintendo, they brought this on themselves when they were like, this is our first $80 game, and we think it justifies the $80 because of, you know, how big this game is and how big of an improvement. And yeah, sure, like it is a big game. I think there are cool new modes. That knockout mode is really cool, and the inclusion of the open world isn't a small thing. You know, it's a big thing for the series. I just think, you know, people disagree with me here, but I think that open world is just barren and boring. I know it's the idea of like you need to go and find your own fun there, and there's puzzles to solve there, and small little neat things to find, but it feels so unstructured in that way. Whereas you come from a Forza Horizon sort of perspective, which I'm pretty sure was an inspiration for them, given that whole trend towards like open world racing games. But Forza Horizon has like a campaign structured in their open world. They've got, you know, side objectives that you can do within the open world. There's a bit more depth and structure to the way you explore that world.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I was kind of hoping for from Mario Kart World, and that's just not what I'm getting. I just don't find any real reason to keep exploring their open world and trying to hunt for things to do or hunt for fun rather than kind of being lightly steered towards that stuff.
Yeah.
And, you know, even if it had a campaign mode, I mean, we come from an age where on the PlayStation 1 we had Crash Team Racing. That had a campaign, you know. That was a kart racer with multiplayer in mind. It had all these other modes, but its campaign was limited. It was just a string of races in different hub worlds, but you had different objectives in those races. You had boss battles. You had something to kind of give you an incentive to play this beyond just multiplayer. And I just find Mario Kart World lacking in that perspective, especially given its price. I was expecting a bit more content there. The content that is there is incredibly well refined. Yeah. It's really, really fun. And I think as a multiplayer game, it is phenomenal. I've played so much Switch 2 at the office because people are bringing their Switches and we're having like multiplayer sessions, and that's great fun. But
for that, I think it's perfect. But
yeah,
even though
is that
stuff,
an $80 improvement over Mario Kart 8 Deluxe? You know what I mean? I'm not so sure.
Almost, it's such a weird thing because I would have thought they could have just done a Mario Kart 8 Switch 2 version. I think it still would have sold. People would have been like,
that's
cool.
The thing. Like the sorts of experiences and fun I'm having with the game could be had on Mario Kart 8. It's not because it's Mario Kart World. Yeah. You know.
But even the open world, it's this thing of, I don't find it like particularly fun to explore because you can just driving along the tracks, just doing that is cool. You know, just this endless loop, whatever. But the moment you go off the track, it just doesn't feel intuitive. Like, if there's a cliff there, I'm like, well, I can't get up there because I'm in a cart. I've got to figure out how to like drive around and get there. So I don't know. It feels a bit like, I don't know what the right term is. It's just not as free form as I would have hoped, I guess. Maybe even the puzzles themselves, like there's puzzles there. If you've done any of the puzzles, if you fail, it's like, oh no, like let me redo it. There's no like, there's a retry button, but it doesn't restart you like loaded into like repeat the puzzle. It puts you back at like before the power button. So you still got to like go there, push the power button, watch the cinematic happen, then repeat it. I'm like, that's just such a simple thing you could have refined, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's small things like that. And I know we're coming down hard on the Switch, and it's more thing of, because I know from my side, I love Nintendo and I love the Switch. It's just like, I don't want them to fall into Wii U territory. I'm like, please do not fuck this up. Like, come on. I love the Switch. Don't take away my goodwill by doing things like this where, you know, I don't want you to, it's not, Mario Kart World's not a cash grab. Don't misunderstand me. But it feels like,
no, 100% not.
It feels like they could have done more with it.
Yeah.
Played it a little bit too safe.
I think the expectation was that there was more, especially because it was the only launch title from Nintendo. You know what I mean? You had that and Welcome to It. So Mario Kart World was carrying a lot on its shoulders. It was more expensive than any other Nintendo game before it, and it was the only launch game for the Switch too. And I just don't think there's enough there. Like,
yeah.
I think it's a great game, and I am still enjoying playing it. But you go back to 2017, and the Switch launched with Breath of the Wild and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and Splatoon 3. Was it 3 or 2?
It might have been 2.
It was 2. It was 2. And you know, back then there was a lot of discourse around, there's only 3 exclusives. It's this, and that. But like,
it was triple the exclusives.
Firstly, there were 3, and you had Breath of the Wild, which was like this 100-hour epic, like genre-defining game.
Yeah, Breath of the Wild.
You don't have that on the Switch too.
Zelda.
Yeah,
Mario Kart World is
100%.
not reinventing Mario Kart 8.
And that's not to say Mario Kart World is not selling well. It's selling exceptionally well, but you can already, I don't think it's just us, but you can already tell there's people going, okay, where is more? You know, where is the next? Why did I buy a Switch 2 if there's only? I've had friends ask me, it's like, should I buy a Switch 2? And I'm like, it's a cool console. You should probably wait. Wait till the end of the year. You know, I was actually just speaking to a friend about it earlier now, because he's got an OLED Switch, and he's like, is it a big jump forward? I'm like, yes. Like, processing wise, massive, this and that. Your games run better. And he's like, okay, but I'm pretty happy with how my games run. Are there new games? I'm like, there's Mario Kart. And that's the truth of it. Like, there's just Mario Kart. So it's a really, really good console. And I think I'm going to be playing a lot of Switch 2 in the future. I just think right now there needs to be more of a hook for me personally. And I'm sure that's going to come.
It'll come.
I
mean, I think beyond Donkey Kong, there will be other exclusives, 100%.
100%. Yeah.
So,
yeah. And like I said, I mean, we've got Donkey Kong, you've got Metroid Prime 4 later this year, which is also on the OG Switch. But I would be shocked if we don't get another Direct by August, which kind of fleshes out the rest of the year for the Switch 2. It would be baffling to me if they have nothing big and marquee for the rest of the year. But you know Nintendo, they will drop like a trailer for a new game and it'll be out in 3-4 months from now. That's just how they operate. So
when they announce Silk Song for the Switch 2, I'm there. That's where I'm playing it.
Fuck, we can only dream.
Yeah, we can
only dream. The 2025 dream is still alive. Yeah, my God.